No. Do you know where they are?
Yeah, I know exactly where they are, just not here.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Cool. We have everyone here.
Yeah, I can do roll. Chair Burns.
Call to order the meeting.
Oh, yes, you do. Oh my glasses. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, it's okay. I'd just like to call to order the Breckenridge Social Equity and Advisory Commission meeting for July 16th. I need to say that again. Okay, perfect. Flora, would you mind calling roll?
Chair Jordan Burns.
Present.
Vice Chair Tosh Greer is absent. Town Council Liaison Carol Sod.
Here.
Commissioner Isaura Cirillo.
Here.
Commissioner Jotuan Daniels.
Present.
Commissioner June Walters. She is also absent. Commissioner Ujala Batas.
Present.
Commissioner Michelle Mahoney.
Present.
Commissioner Abigail Martinez.
Present.
Is there a discussion needed, or can we approve the agenda from last meeting? Motion to approve. And a second?
Oh, I'll second.
Do we need further discussion, or can we approve the minutes from last meeting? Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Translator is on her way. And maybe before we jump into our next agenda item, I think talking to some of you, we didn't all understand what Helen and Scott's role is and who they are within the town. Could you to quickly introduce yourselves just to clarify for commission?
We have a lot of new commissioners.
This on? There we go. Hi, Helen Kospalich. I'm the Director of Municipal Services and Engagement. I was the town clerk, but I just hired a town clerk to be in our department so I can more fully focus on all of these other things. Like I said, I oversee the Communications and Community Engagement Division within. So that's what Floor's part of. I think at this point, my role is to assist Floor in facilitating these meetings and to help guide her as needed, but she does an amazing job on her own. So feel free to reach to me at any point if you have anything you think I can help answer, but Floor is your main contact.
Thanks, Helen.
Thanks, Carol. So I am Scott Reed. I'm the Deputy Town Manager. So my role is just to assist you all with whatever help I can provide. It's really my role. So I'm kind of like the unnecessary third wheel. So let me know if I can.
You're here.
Let me know if I can do anything to help.
And Darcy and Laura will introduce themselves when they talk about housing. They're part of our amazing housing team. And just to mention, Marika Page is here too, and she is another council member.
Yeah. Abigail, ¿necesitas mostrar? Okay.
Gracias.
Los siguientes están en el packet. En la página, empezando en la página donde habla de las reuniones, planificación de reuniones vacinales de McCain. Sorry. So starting with a summary or staff summary, I wanted to give you guys an update and also acknowledge our Open Space and Trails Department, who hosted an open house at Vista Verde neighborhood, and they had great success with the community that they normally have tried really hard to get involved, but haven't been able to. And by changing this location, I think they were able to reach, they said that probably half of the people that attended were Spanish speakers. And that the food and it was the celebration kind of is what brought people. Their numbers, they don't have exact numbers yet, but like approximately 8 to 10 people were primarily Spanish speakers. They said that the grills was definitely a success, having the tables and having the language, which is something that they've been working on, having everything bilingual. And they worked with they worked with a third party that also got them everything bilingual. And so that helped out a lot when they were having those conversations with them and got some good feedback. And we're excited. The biggest feedback that they got was that they were really excited that they lived or they were able to live next to the open space and just how beautiful that was. Yeah. So yeah, kudos to them. They've been trying really hard and making some great progress.
And this is something maybe for the civic engagement subcommittee to keep in mind, that this event was successful. So is that Vista Verde 2? Those are the larger apartment buildings north of town. And in between two of those buildings, there's grills, there's just a community area, picnic tables, and that format was successful for open space. So that's something that we should keep in mind. We always talk about meeting people where they are. So I think it'd be great if our civic engagement subcommittee thinks of a potential event there. It can be a meet and greet. We could offer resources. We could coordinate with the housing team to see if there's some other information we provide. But I think it'd be great if civic engagement thinks about potentially doing an event with those residents.
Yeah, and I really like the idea of, because our meet and greets in the past have been like at bars and stuff, to have more like outdoor environment in the community would be really nice, and just kind of away from that aspect of town and really to showcase off a different part of the town.
Could be a really great location.
Yeah. So too excited. I'm happy for the give them more information for the people. So it's good place. Yeah. Thank you.
My second update is that the IM Summit 2.0, as we're calling them, the second phase of the IM Summit videos are out. We have some very awesome people. We did see a pretty significant decrease of participants. As you can imagine, people are not as comfortable to speak up and share their stories as they maybe were before. But we had some great leaders, including Commissioner Cedillo's sister.
Joyce was,
yeah.
Joyce was
Joyce was there.
cool.
She's a great
For
example.
people who doesn't know her. It's my identical twin sister, so I said.
Yeah, she's a great example. And we also had our second generation immigrant, our first second generation immigrant featured as well. So that was kind of neat to remember that it goes beyond beyond just the people who we think of as immigrants, right? There's different types of immigrants and different types of people that fall under that identity. So yeah. So please share, like they're on our social medias and YouTube. So if you see them around, please share.
We'll just
Yeah, let her get set up.
We're trying to get our interpreter figured out. I think they're good. So we can move on to our housing. Unless someone has questions about the item summit videos.
Always really excited about those, really happy for a community to tell their story. And I think it's just a great, like almost like time capsule piece for the town to have for all of the people who are living here and showing the diversity that we have in a time where it's cool.
So I wasn't here for the inception of that project. Is it once a year, twice a year you're hoping to do it?
We don't really have a set plan, but continuously would be great. Like if we could finish these and then in a couple months, it does take a couple months to gather everyone and do probably, believe it or not, it probably takes like 3 months from like start to ending. So probably give like, this would be over and then a couple months later and then do another set. But we'll have to rethink. I think the Immigration Rights and Advocacy Subcommittee is gonna have to consider if we can move forward since we only had like 8 people. And people really in our community are not feeling comfortable doing this. Even I could say that even staff members in our town of Breck, staff don't feel comfortable sharing their story. So we might want to consider that and think about that, see how things develop. But that takes us to a great point that we should really on our immigrant community member neighbors and residents and the people that are not having the best time right now and are probably struggling and are feeling a lot of fear and are not living the life that maybe they would have normally. But yeah, something to think about.
Awesome. Well, I would like to introduce our speakers for today, Ms. Lori and Ms. Darcy. Sorry, I don't want to do last names if I don't know both of them. And they're here from the town of Breck, Housing Division. Thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you for having us. This is is it my second meeting in a row or just there was one in between? But I have been here before and really appreciated that discussion. So I'm happy to continue to the discussion because, you know, your input is so important to us as we are working on housing. So, and this is Darcy Henning and last name, sorry. And she has been with housing about 3 years. 3 years, compared to my, 25. And I'm constantly reminded how long I've been doing housing in this community, and there's not a better job or a more challenging job, in my opinion. But we're happy to have Darcy helping. And Darcy really does a lot of work around our deed restrictions, and dealing with owners and occupants and buyers and and comes from being in lending and banking, and so has that experience too in terms of helping people get into home ownership. So we're just so happy to have Darcy helping with us. I'm glad you could be here tonight. But I did put a memo in your packet. And what I wanted to do is sort of, I know the last time I was here, I didn't have a memo and it's just verbal. And I did give a little bit of an overview of our housing, but I think it's super important to understand how the Runway neighborhood fits in with the other projects and our goals. And it's interesting, I didn't mention in the memo, but you know, the vision plan that the town did, it's on your wall. I think it was in 2002. It talks a lot about housing and it talks about why we do housing. And, you know, the important sort of elements and sort of things that we want to achieve in our housing program is to build community, to maintain Breckenridge as a real town, as opposed to just a visitors is okay.
Sorry, just as a reminder, this is the memo. She's referring to the memo that I emailed you guys on Monday.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
It's not in mine, but it's in hers, so I was confused.
Yeah, Abigail requested that she gets a packet printed every time, and then we do one for the interpreter so that it's easier for them.
I stole the interpreters.
Copy.
You have a copy
as well. If anybody else.
Okay. We can share.
Go.
You and I will share.
Just don't have it. Thank you.
Yeah, so the vision plan, it really is, when it talks about housing, the reason we do this is to maintain a sense of community, a real town where people who work in the community can live in the community and they're part of the community, they're connected. Towns can go a variety of different directions. They can decide it is perfectly fine if our workforce lives outside of town and commutes in. There are a lot of resort places where that's what they've chosen to be. But Breckenridge has decided we want to do everything we can to fight to save that sense of a real place, a real town. An important part of being a real town is diversity of income and age, and just the demographics of our community. If you're a real town, you have a variety of kids, you have old people. And that doesn't happen without public intervention because the market in a resort community would displace a lot of the locals that create that diversity. And you would end up with a community that I don't want to say it, but it's a community that lacks diversity in terms of age or income. And so it's super important that the town have a robust program to try to intervene and sort of make and decide what we want the market to do and what we want our community to be like. So, but I did provide a lot of information in my memo about this particular site. Hopefully all of you know where it is. And it was part of that larger land acquisition. And this is kind of our last 25-acre parcel. And we did start planning it a year and a half or so ago in terms of programming it. But what we were doing is trying to be consistent with the vision plan and have a diversity of housing types and a mixed income neighborhood. So that's why we've included, the townhomes, the duplexes, the single families, and to just be true to what our vision is for this community. And I think it was kind of funny as I was writing this memo, the original master plan contemplated about 400 units out there on that block 11 property. And if we do build out runway to the full 147 and some ADUs, we'll actually land at 396 units, which is just like, wow. So I do think we are sort of efficiently using the land, but being true to what the vision of town is. And so we are getting to the point where we are really dealing with the developer on the pricing exercises and making sure we know how much town subsidy is going to go into this. And that's where a lot of our focus is right now. But we also have to be thinking that, if we are moving forward with this project, vertical construction will start next spring. And if that starts in the spring, that means the lotteries and the deed restriction and all of that has to be done actually well in advance and ideally done before we convey or the property to the developer. So the plan is to convey sort of the first phase of the property to the developer as early as this fall. And we'd like to get a deed restriction figured out. And there's lots of elements to the deed restriction that ultimately the council's going to have to consider. But we really want your feedback because a lot of these will sort of impact the residents. And we want sort of your eyes on that from your perspective to understand how they might impact residents. So my memo does sort of include sort of by topic the items we're wanting your feedback on. And I hope you all had a chance to read it in advance because I don't want to just read what it says. But we wanted to start kind of with the sort of deed restriction questions and especially the one, I mean, there are some main elements of a deed restriction that are going to be in all of our deed restrictions. You know, you have to be local workforce and we have provisions for retirement and some of those kinds of things that are very standard. But then we have some that we always think about, you know, is that appropriate for this particular project or should we vary from what we've always done? And I think those are the ones we wanted to focus and have a conversation with you guys about. So the first one is that ownership of other property. If you are familiar with sort of deed restrictions, I think you are basically familiar with deed restrictions.
Maybe if, before we dive into the specifics laid out, does anyone have questions about the project in general or what Lori just talked about?
I was just looking at the price points that I think we discussed it last time, right? What percentage of our town would fulfill that criteria to actually buy here, right? Like, I think one of the things that's popped up recently is we have subsidized housing that's not being fulfilled, or it's still sitting vacant, right? Is that true? Am I understanding that correctly? I just kind of want to get an understanding of if we build these 400 units, are they actually going to be occupied? Will people who live here be able to actually afford that housing?
Right. Well, the first question is, you know, is everything occupied? And, you know, at initial lease up, it's always a struggle. You're going through these lottery processes and lease up can take a while, but even, you know, we continue to hear that Vista Verde 1 and Vista Verde 2, you know, didn't lease up and they're still vacant. They are, for all intents and purposes, they don't have a vacancy rate that concerns anybody. I think they're right now 93% occupied, which when you're running apartments, 90% is considered what they call stabilized, rented up, leased
Right.
up.
Yeah.
So no, it's not like we are sitting on a lot of vacant units. I know I remember seeing some things in the newspaper.
Yeah, I mean, again,
are-
it's
yeah.
the lack of knowledge and not understanding what that
Yeah.
threshold would be. And so I think it's trying to gather all that information and actually understand at 90%, like that's not a
Yeah.
point that I knew about. Yeah.
I think, you know, we did continue to hear that, oh, the price points at Vista Verde 1 and Vista Verde 2 aren't where we would like them to be. And we are always trying to achieve lowest price points we can get. A lot of it just depends on sort of what we can afford to subsidize. And so we always look at a project from the financial perspective, how much we're going to subsidize and is there demand at all the levels that we're providing?
Sure.
And, you know, in Breckenridge, we just have so little vacancy. I mean, everything is leased up. And, you know, I'm sure once they're fully up and running for, you know, another year or so, you know, we're gonna, I felt there's a little relief in the rental market right now, just because we have added so much rental inventory recently. Hundreds of rental units between sort of Larkspur, the Vista Verde stuff. We've focused on rentals, I would say, for the last couple of years and added a lot of inventory. And I think we're gonna see, and I actually do I hear from employers that, okay, my employees can actually find units now. So I think it's starting to loosen up. We're in the middle of a rental survey right now. The Housing Authority has put out some surveys in terms of trying to better understand the rental market and who's still not being served and you know, how they're feeling in terms of the affordability of their rents. So when those results come back in a couple months or so, I think we'll have a good idea whether, you know, where we're still missing in terms of rental. But does that answer your question?
Sort of, but I guess I'm trying to understand is what percentage of our population would actually be able to afford or meet the criteria to be able to afford these units that are being built, that are being subsidized, right? So it's like, that was more my question. Of that data, I guess, is the other point.
I mean, it's good data to have. There's probably a little bit of that in the census. I mean, we've done needs assessments that tell us where we need to sort of target rentals. And we do those needs assessments every 5 years and then we update them. And, you know, the needs assessment will tell us we have needs at all income levels for all different types of housing.
Yeah.
I mean, the needs assessment do really always sort of come up with some really, really high needs in the super low AMI, 30 to 60% AMI. It's super hard to hit that, to fulfill that.
That's,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's part of my question
Yeah.
here is where that AMI is. I think it starts at 85, right? So
For the for sale.
the force.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, the for sale market and the rental market completely different. I mean, when you talk about the need for rental, you
Yeah.
know, it's 60 to 80% AMI.
Yeah.
And when you talk about for sale, it runs from 80 to 200% AMI. I didn't bring my needs assessment with our chart, but it runs the, I mean, it's very diverse. And we see that because when we roll out, the last for sale project that we rolled out was Stables, and the demand at all price points was off the chart.
We go.
Ahí yo tengo un-
I have a question.
Ah, pues, siempre ha habido restricciones en las otras viviendas y quería saber porque ella ha mencionado, dice, es un proyecto para la comunidad. Entonces quería saber por qué ellos no pueden también considerar que haya una oportunidad a otras personas que no han comprado ninguna casa.
Okay, so when you said that there's a lot of restrictions to rent, has there always been restrictions in there in place, or are these gonna be, is this new? And then the other question is that you're saying that you're giving a lot of opportunities to the community to buy. Why I feel like we don't have enough opportunities for people that haven't buy anything, and I don't feel like we have opportunities.
Okay, on the first question, the rental restrictions,
La primera
I mean, what we're
pregunta,
talking about today is the runway neighborhood,
Eh,
the for sale neighborhood and the restrictions that are going to be on those for sale units.
las unidades que están en venta,
In terms
términos
of
de-
the affordability,
de
is it a
accesibilidad.
question of the affordability of rentals or the affordability at runway?
¿Estás hablando de las rentas o estás hablando de la accesibilidad de compra? De compra. Accessibility to buy,
Okay, sort of the price points.
como por ejemplo el punto de precio.
No, quería saber realmente, por ejemplo, usualmente otras personas han tenido ese beneficio de comprar otra vivienda, pero otros que no han tenido la oportunidad, porque no se puede considerar también de que ellos tengan la oportunidad de comprar.
Just other people that I know, they've had the opportunity to buy, but there's some other people that I know that they never buy anything and they don't have the opportunity to buy.
If it's, you know, we are planning a sort of open house in the fall that will be trying to bring people together that are looking to buy to make sure they have the information about this neighborhood. And, you know, I think, you know, information is key to being able to enable them to buy. And so we think the open house might be a way where we just invite people that are even wanting to buy. Not everybody wants to buy, but if people do want to buy, we want to make sure they know what they should be thinking about well in advance of entering a purchase contract. You know, how they need to figure out how to have their budget figured out, and, you know, don't go and buy a new camper trailer right before you're going to get your loan for your house. So we're going to go through some of those sort of get ready to buy kind of classes. First one will be in October-ish. And we'll be providing some information on the runway neighborhood, but it's more broad. It's about how do I get ready to buy regardless of whether it's runway or some other property.
See that?
Combined Housing, sorry. We have spoken with the Summit Combined Housing Authority and trying to kind of make this a joint effort. So it's community-wide available and more of an education type campaign. So people really know how to prepare for homeownership.
Sí, de hecho, me gustaría que ellos añadieran los módulos de información, porque yo conozco familias que han estado en loterías y no han podido comprar su casa.
Yeah, that will be nice if you can share that information. And also just because I know some families that they've been in lotteries and they were not able to buy their house.
Lotteries,
Estaban en loterías.
and they got,
Estado en
yeah,
loterías,
and,
no
and,
han podido.
yeah, right. Yeah, we're gonna have some open houses, so that people are prepared to buy. And, if they were selected in a lottery and were not able to buy, I don't know if it's because the unit they wanted wasn't available or if they couldn't get financing. But we'll have an open house and find out what the challenges are and the barriers are and try to reduce them as much as we can.
Sí, estas familias necesitan esos módulos en español porque si quieren comprarse.
And also if you can share that information in Spanish.
Yeah,
Sí, gracias.
no, thank you.
And
Thanks.
that's something starting with one of the last for sale projects of the
Algo que están
town, which
empezando
was
también
called
con
the
la venta
Stables
del
Village.
proyecto de-
I think
aquí
town staff has done, Lori, Darcy, the outreach team has really made an effort to educate all members of our community, including underserved, but we recognize it's something that we can always improve upon. So I know the housing team is working on it, our outreach team is working on it, and I'm sure we'll come back to this commission at some point when we talk about educational resources and outreach and what we can do even better. But those are all great questions. So thank you. And I know we're set up our discussion by letting everyone know we want to hear from you, your
Yes.
questions, your opinions. If you agree, disagree with something, we want to hear everything. So please, all commissioners, feel free to jump in, ask questions, share your thoughts. And before we go into the specific parts of the memo, any other questions or thoughts about the project in general?
Just to clarify, these are all for sale or there's going to be?
No, this is all for sale, but the plan does anticipate some ADUs on 44 of the homes. And those ADUs, we do want those to serve as rentals. So,
Right.
yeah.
I guess I had a comment and a question. The first is that I like the diversity of the units that you selected for those first 80 buildings. And then I had a question on how many of those would be deed restricted versus developer sold.
They are all going to be deed restricted. Under our agreement with the developer, we have allowed the developer to, I think it's one unit for the developer unit. The developer, as part of our negotiations with the developer to build this, she was really requesting approval to allow her employer or employee that's sort of running the project have an opportunity to buy in there. So the council was willing to provide one unit to the developer for her to place one of her employees in it. Other than that, they're basically all deed restricted. I mean, there'll be we have a sort of arrangement with the school district to have school district employees in this neighborhood. And it was really important to the town to work with the school district and try to accommodate and give some priority to the school district employees because they're school district employees, but they're also employees that are needed in the Upper Blue. So there will be a percentage of the units that the school district employees have first priority to.
Floor, do we want to address this question?
We could either have it as public comment or if you could answer real quick how many units are going to be AMI?
They are all of the units that, the majority of the units we're pricing pursuant to an AMI. The AMI ranges from what, 85% AMI up to 180% AMI. So all of the units are targeting a certain AMI.
Sorry, I really don't know how much is the, am I, you
Oh.
said you're talking percentage, but how much would be the salary of those people?
Yeah, we can talk about, depends on your family size. So
Mhm.
maybe if we just look
Depends
at
on the unit size, but it kind of
like a three-person household
At
at
80.
80% MI, is that household earns $95,000 a year.
total.
That's a three-person household
Hmm.
at 95. That's 80% AMI.
But the question might have been, and I don't know if we can get clarification, were they looking for the units that were going to have the income cap on them, or do we have a way of knowing? If that's what the-
And that'll come up in our specific sections.
Yeah.
But maybe the question is, how the units are being priced, and they're all being priced
within an
off
AMI, right.
AMI, which is average median income. Does everyone understand?
AMI to
AMI.
begin with. I mean, AMI is super confusing and it's a problem for everybody, but it's a metric.
It's, one of the things that is difficult for bilingual people like me is trying to understand those acronyms that you guys use a lot. And I always put this example because I'm a dentist. So when you guys talk about ADA, the first thing comes to my mind is American Dental Association. So you guys is
Americans with Disabilities Act.
That I learn from being here, but all those terms is very hard for me, and I bet they're also very hard for
Okay,
her.
let me talk
So
just real quick
I
about
always
what AMI is. Yeah.
and these meetings try not to minimize the acronyms as much as possible because it's difficult for us to get it.
Yeah, AMI is it is a calculation of what our median incomes are in Summit County. It's published by HUD, Housing and Urban Development, annually. And what they attempt to do is sort of establish what the median income of a household is that lives in Summit County. And that would be 100% middle of the road median income for a three-person household or a four-person household. And then they determine on the lower end of AMI down to like 60% of AMI would be considered sort of low income, would be a 60% AMI. 100% AMI would be the middle. And then from that up to 200 is sort of moderate to middle class.
One thing that I think it should be considered, and if I don't know, you guys probably have, but it's also a thing to think about the whole, because if you think about the people who lives here, that's one thing, but how many people we have who lives in Leadville or Kremlin or Alma or Buena Vista or Parcel, and because I know a lot of people who live in those places and they drive every day over an hour.
Mhm.
Or depends the weather, right? And it's people that is part of the workforce and they live out of the county, and I don't think they've been considering for these evaluations. And I think that's very important. And that it makes also very challenging for people who is trying to offer jobs and have people to work for them, because people who can work or do the job, they just don't live here or they don't live close by, and it's a whole other challenge, especially in our weather. They can be a little challenging, as we know, do those travel times, right? And that creates a problem with the working force. So I think it's something that you guys should consider and think about, not just Summit County, think about the people who lives outside and make that more affordable, like I was telling you last time, because these prices are insane. And I don't think this is really reflecting what we need.
I think, that's a super good point because, I mean, one of our goals of our housing program is to reduce that in-commuting because we agree that is not great for quality of life or feeling part of the community. It's not great for employers when their staff live over a pass. It's not good for, being able to sustain a business over here if you're relying on people that have to drive an hour to work. We definitely do intend to provide housing to sort of encourage people that are outside living right now to be able to come and live in the community where they work. That's one of the fundamental goals of our program is to get those in commuters and get them here. Because that's what's going to keep our community diverse and economically viable because you can't count on a workforce that lives outside and isn't connected to your community. But, in terms of what AMI is, it's supposedly a reflection of what people on average would be able to earn if they lived here. Because this is what, if they're going to move here and they're going to be working for an employer in the community, this, is what sort of tells us what they most likely would be making as well. So we would hope that if they are able to find a home here and move here, that we'd be targeting them if they're within the 85% AMI. I mean, with a for sale product. I mean, if this were sort of rental, I think we're going to typically our rentals kind of, we try to target a lower AMI because this is definitely a home ownership. And maybe it's people that have been renting for a while and are going to move up and finally have the opportunity and the capacity to buy. So that's one of our goals with Runway is to move people out of rental, to get them into home ownership, and to target AMIs where we believe there isn't demand. But considering in commuters is really something we do need to do.
Lori, this is more of a comment than anything while we're on this thread of the conversation. And I think it more or less speaks to the income caps. I'm not sure if we wanted to continue to discuss about ownership at first.
Are there any more general questions about the project? And then maybe we'll dive into the specific areas. And if your question is under income caps, let's hold it till then, unless you have something general.
I'm
General, no. Yeah, so why don't we dive into your start?
I would love to, whoops.
Did you have a question?
Bueno, otra pregunta más.
Mhm.
¿Qué harían si una familia tiene la barrera, por ejemplo, cuenta con el efectivo, por ejemplo, 50,000, 60,000, pero tienen la barrera de comprar una casa porque tienen un ITIN? ¿Cuál sería la solución que ellos tendrían?
So for example, if there's a family that has $50,000, $60,000 to start buying a house, but they have this barrier that they have an ITIN number, what will be the solution for them?
Darcy can weigh in here too, but there are financing opportunities for people that are using the ITINs, and I think we have some lenders that are familiar with the process locally. I don't know if we had any buyers in Stables Village that
Had I-10,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm not sure. But we don't have any criteria at the town within our deed restriction or qualification for the property that there is any, citizenship criteria. It would be just obtaining the loan and working with a lender that offered a program that could provide that I-10 financing. And I do know that we had, First Bank does have a program locally, and then I have the name of another entity that was also working with those programs as well.
And I'm not sure you guys know that, but people who apply to those loans and do those kind of loans to them or that, they pay way higher
Interest rates.
interest rate than a regular person with a normal social security number, right?
Mhm.
So that's another barrier there, which is
It
makes
is a
things
barrier.
very challenging, especially when that population is the one who makes the less money than everyone else.
Could I just ask if you could clarify, like, the information you have in your chart about,
Sure.
like, on page 2, the unit type, cost type, sort of, what does that signify? Just if you could,
That was just to demonstrate how when we price the units to sort of be more affordable, it does require a gap because it costs us more to build them.
yeah,
And then, how we make up the gap is either, the town writing a check
okay.
or trying to actually generate some revenue through the sale prices on the higher priced units that, where we can make a little bit money on the higher priced units, use that to buy down the lower priced units. So those units help us to subsidize the
So,
cost of the lower
am
price
I
units.
understanding this correct? For example, for the 4-bedroom, single family, the very last unit, so it's the actual cost to build it is 830, but we're going to be selling it for
Yeah.
1.3,
Yeah.
and that's where you would,
Yeah, so that, 400 to 69,000 per unit
got it.
goes to help us buy down, say, the sort of 3-bedroom townhome is the most difficult for us to pencil. So we can use the revenue from that large single family to help us offset the subsidy.
And where are we with these price units, considering like the cost of everything is going with tariffs and everything, right, going up?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so how accurate is this in real life? Like, when were these presented or calculated versus where we are today?
I'll tell you, the council is still considering the final budget on this project, and they haven't actually given us final approval to move forward
Okay.
because we're still vetting the financial costs or the vertical costs
Yeah.
and the impact of tariffs. And, but we have a developer that is willing to say, I will provide those units at that price point. And these price points are based on, our developer has gone out and actually got hard bids from multiple contractors, just to make sure that we have a local contractor that is willing to say, yeah, I can build it for that price.
And if everyone's okay, let's move on to the specific questions that they have. And then at the end, if we have time, we'll come back to
Yeah.
any general questions that commissioners have.
Yeah, sort of the first element of the deed restriction that is sort of, do we need to do something different than we've done in the past? Is this, ownership of other property? Typically, for the units that are our lowest price points that require the most significant subsidy from the town, we have prohibited those owners, those buyers from owning another residential property within Summit County. But for the folks that are buying the higher priced units that are actually subsidizing the project, we have allowed them to own one other developed property in Summit County. And I think the thought around that is that we're targeting two completely different demographics. And the buyers of the most subsidized unit, we hope, are the households that really need to access that unit because that's the price they can afford to pay. And not households that might have multiple other real estate property that they own. But whereas with the higher income households who are really subsidizing those units, we have to almost entice them and make it, a good financial investment for them to consider a runway. And so in the past, we have felt that there was a distinction between the two household types that we're targeting, and it made sense, and we kind of needed it for the project to pencil. But super interested in your reaction to that and where you think we should go.
Let me see if I understood correctly. You're saying that if some family buy the higher price house, like the 4 bedrooms with the 4 garage, whatever, uh, they can own another deed restricted home.
No.
Now they can own a different market rate home.
Deed restricted, but another
Another home.
home, deed restricted.
Or another home anywhere on the county. Yeah, because before was that they were not allowed to own anything, right?
We've always, in most of our neighborhoods, I mean, going back several neighborhoods, we've always allowed the higher price point units to own another real estate, a piece of real estate in Summit County. And we've always sort of prohibited the most subsidized units, the townhomes, to also have another residential property. I think the thought was if you are, buying in Runway, it's most likely you're an entry level buyer. You don't already have a house, because these are super subsidized, and we're really trying to target those folks that haven't had the opportunity to get into home ownership yet. So if you already have home ownership, you're like, okay, you're ahead of a lot of people. And our goal is to try to target folks that are really maybe moving up from rental. And then on the other hand, we kind of need the higher AMI households to want to participate in this neighborhood and feel it's worth their financial sort of investment. So it's,
So let me see if I understood again, because I don't think I might not. So if they buy this, they can own another deed restrict, but they can own another regular price property, which before it was not allowed.
right,
Oh, that's what you guys are thinking? of?
another property, we don't distinguish between deed restricted or market.
So they're not allowed to own anything.
The lower AMI, the town homeowners, right? Not allowed to own another property.
So somebody that
getting
owns a more expensive house in this unit,
Uh-huh.
in this area, can own another home. It doesn't matter if it's deed restricted or market.
Right.
That's what you're saying.
Can.
They can. They can.
The
The
cheaper
people-
rated.
The cheaper ones are getting more subsidized, are getting more support to buy that house at a lesser
The
value.
cheap house cannot
not.
own more, but the expensive count, they can have more.
Right, because the
Okay.
expensive one is
Now I
paying,
understand.
yeah.
I need kindergarten language, I'm sorry.
Idea is to kind of reduce competition for those lower priced units. So people that really need it have more of an opportunity to buy it the first time. So how does everyone want to do this? Should we see on each subject if anyone has questions? Otherwise, Jay maybe can lead us down the line and see what people think.
Yeah, that'd be helpful. Just the topic by topic,
Topic by
maybe just get a general
Mm-hmm.
feeling from everybody. Yes, no, don't like it, hate it.
I think that's an efficient manner.
Miguel, would you like to start?
Okay, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
Por eso yo quería decir que se le da la prioridad a los que no han tenido la oportunidad de comprar una casa.
And that's why I was saying that it should be a priority to the people that they've never bought a house before.
Agreed.
Gonna say I'm uncertain in how I feel. I think I need more information.
Is, okay, understand.
Joe Twan?
Yeah, no comment on, we're still talking about ownership?
Yes.
Yeah, no comment per se.
No comment from Joe Twan. For myself, I think I agreed with this last time. So I still feel the same about it. Because with owning a property in Runway, you had to live in it, I believe so even if you owned a property elsewhere and you were able to buy it in Runway, you still had to move into that unit. So it still helped with our sense of community and the growth there.
Yeah.
Carol?
I'll have other opportunities to
Mm.
lean, so I really want to hear from the commissioner, so will skip me.
Yeah, I still think that it's way too expensive and not accessible at all. So that's the same that I always been saying, so. Same comment.
The ownership of
Mhm.
other units.
Oh, the owner, I think it's okay. I understand the part the they don't making that much money for the cheaper houses, but we go again to the same subject about equity and equally, right? Like just because you had a better job and more money, you're allowed to own something else. Just because you're poor, you are not allowed to own anything else. So I found that not very equity or equally. Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, I don't know. It sounds like letting the rich make more money and letting the poor be more poor.
Michelle?
So I would have agreed with that last time we talked about this. I think that the big thing is the communication on how much they're subsidized. I think if you were able to explain that you're gonna sell the light deed restricted for 469,000 more than what it was cost to be made, because that's being used to subsidize the other ones. That's a big difference than if it's just the rich people get to own another house. So I think the communication behind it is gonna be really important in order to make it seem more equitable.
Mhm.
Because if I saw that number last time, I would have agreed more like I do now. Without knowing that, though, I would
Yeah.
say the same thing, that it wasn't equitable.
But not fair.
Yeah.
It's just in part of the business deal. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, is there a cap in is there a 3% cap in the annual?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Appreciation of it.
Well, we're going to talk about
But
there
not the
are.
light, though.
Yeah.
Deed restricted,
Yeah.
right?
We're going to
That's the
talk.
difference.
Yeah, we're going to
Mhm.
talk about a proposal for, I think it's 4 or 6 light deed restricted units in the neighborhood. That would be different.
That would be my. Should brought my glass.
Is that acronym again? Caps, should we talk income caps? This is sort of also along the same line that, you know, the who we're trying to serve with the townhomes are the folks that can only afford the townhomes. If we don't have an income cap on those townhomes, then the wealthier households could buy those townhomes. And our goal is to make sure those townhomes are available for the people that's all they can afford. And that's really what income caps do for us. They also do enable us to obtain some grant funding, which is super important to help subsidize the entire project. And so we support the income testing on the lower priced units to make sure those are bought by the people that's all they can afford to buy. We don't necessarily support income caps on the higher AMI units because again, we're trying to incentivize them to buy here. And it's a challenge, the more sort of strings you put on a unit that you're targeting a very high AMI on. So love your thoughts on income caps as well.
Abigail, we're gonna start with you again, if that's okay. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm picking on you today, but. Oh,
Start the other side.
we'll start with Michelle.
Alternate to be fair.
Okay, where's my question? So I'm guessing the income cap is going off of that AMI
Yeah.
that you're working with.
Yeah.
And then so it says testing, do they have to continually give you this data throughout the year? So basically when they buy it, if they have whatever job, and that's the job they keep to get this house, they can then go out in a year and make
We
a
hope they do.
substantial amount of money and it would make a difference.
I mean, an important part of our whole housing program is that you get in and then you do well and you succeed. I mean, you're right. When you talk about income caps, there's a lot of places where you are income capped every single year. But no, this is just when you're first initially buying it. There's an income cap and there's a big buffer. So we price the units at a certain AMI that's lower, and then we income cap at a higher AMI. So to make sure there's buffer so we haven't, created a cap that's so low that you can't really still afford that house.
Yeah.
So no, and it's only done at the time of initial purchase. And then when the next person goes to buy that unit, they would be income capped to make sure that we're putting the people in those lower priced units that need to be in those lower priced units.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And that would be then readjusted for the day that they're buying the AMI. on the day that they're
Yeah,
buying it.
yeah, as it goes up.
Isara?
Or Michelle, did you say what you think about that?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm sure I'll have something as we come back.
I don't know. I think it's okay. I don't know. I live in a deed restricted home too. So, I mean, by the time you buy it, it's awesome, right? You, yay, it's super cheap. But when you sell in 20 years later, you're like, really? So, um, I mean, no, I understand it's the opportunity to everybody to get access to that. So I really don't have any.
Sorry, I have one more thought.
Mhm.
The income caps take into consideration the interest rates because it's a massive difference if it's 3% versus like say 7%, right? That's like $1,000 a month.
AMIs, the sales prices take into account the difference in interest rates, but the actual income caps, your area median income, what you're earning, doesn't usually take into consideration the interest rates, because that's more about the wage that you're earning compared to what you can afford.
Okay.
But the what you can afford is what is the, so that is kind of confusing, the AMI or area median income of what the home price will be. That very much takes into consideration what the cost of actually owning that home will be.
And so when you put that out for communication, will it have the number, like the dollar number or the percentage,
Dollar
for someone that may be
We
confused?
would put out with the dollar.
The dollar number.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm done.
With Michelle's comment, the more transparent we can be by having just like hard numbers, even if they're ranges, it's easier to put into perspective with what people make rather than having percentages that you then have to go find and then translate. And so I think if we can have as many direct numbers as possible, that would be really helpful for all parts of our community.
And Jay, what do you think about the approach to the income cap for the lower priced units?
I think having the range when you do the income testing at the time of purchase is really fair. And the promotion of like growth within one's job or within one's industry is really what we want. Because then that it does give that opportunity to move up to a more expensive house in the same community or a more expensive house throughout our community and then provide that opportunity for that housing for the next local who would like to move into it. So I think having a wider range of berth for purchase is really important. But then also making sure that they are affordable for each level of house. Because the last thing that you want to do is get excited about too much house potentially. And something that you can't actually afford on the month-to-month basis, which creates another level of stress in one's life where like you kind of get rid of the excitement of actually purchasing a property and having that opportunity and knowing how difficult the lotteries are. Like when you do get the opportunity, it's so exciting that you immediately start thinking of like what your mortgage is going to be and how much is electric and internet, and you want to make sure that knowing what the cap is, that the town understands if you make this much money with the rest of the necessities, I guess would probably be the best for quality of life, or you can afford with it.
First and foremost, thanks for joining us and letting us be a part of the conversation. I do
good.
not envy what y'all are trying to do as a town in terms of deal with a very complex problem. I agree with the comments that preceded me in terms of if we could be as clear with our communication in regards to how income capping will work, I think that will help potential buyers make an informed decision. In terms of the principle of income caps, I would just make a comment that I fully agree with this as a principle. I do believe that income capped local community members should be served first and foremost by any new housing brought on by the town, which costs less than $500,000 down.
And just to clarify really quick, because I know I said that we would be putting the actual dollar amount, that will be provided in the educational kind of information that's provided at the time of the lottery, but in the actual So that's kind of confusing. In the actual deed restriction, it will have a percentage because that one deed restriction is going to be recorded and then used for 20, 30 years. Does that kind of make sense? So at the time that a home is sold, we would be able to provide today what 80% AMI means is this number, but that changes on an annual basis. Does that kind of make sense? Okay.
So I think with that, since like we are gonna have the first and second phase, we'll have accurate or have up-to-date numbers for those at the time of sale. And then I think when anything would come up to lottery in the future, we could then update with a closer to like an estimate at that point, just so that like we know the percentages over the years are gonna be this percentage, and then anytime one comes up for lottery, it's like, hey, it's gonna be
In that year.
here.
Mhm.
Because with the lottery, there are usually several hundred entries and they are going to sell. So like then we could again just give that number again,
Mhm.
because it's like, okay, this house is going up for sale. It will sell.
Mhm.
This is
The
what that,
income cap
yeah,
number.
right. So
Yeah.
it's like, yep, it's supposed to be this percentage.
Yep.
Since this house is for sale in this year, this is what that number is. And maybe even of like, again, like asterisks, this is subject to change as the years go on.
Yeah.
Just to let everyone know that that's not going to continue to be that number
For
every
forever.
year.
Yeah, yeah.
At the first initial offering, here's our number, and for any house that enters the lottery in future years, it'll be this percentage. We'll update with accurate number upon lottery.
I also echo the sentiments of my co-commissioners, but my question is in regards to what is considered income, right? Like, is it the actual what the pay stubs that are being utilized or additional income that, for example, for an ADU that comes along, is that considered income for somebody that owns a second dwelling and has additional income that's coming in, but they fulfill that criteria of say what?
Said it should, IRS would.
Right. That's it. Like, I think that's, because it doesn't, we have people that fulfill both of those criteria, right? You're gonna have families that only meet that AMI based on their pay stubs, but then you have families that go beyond that. But it ultimately, when you're looking at those numbers, if they don't have to say or, share that information, they're in the same lottery. How does that, will that be utilized, or what criteria is utilized for income?
I mean, I think if I understand the comment, it's a good one. We need to really have a good definition of how we calculate income and what's included income, because there's all sorts of income nowadays. There's your wages, there's investment income, there's rental income. And we
Narrative.
include it all when we're talking about a rental cap. Because, just because you may have a very low wage and you've got a lot of investment income
Right.
doesn't mean you're going to be able to buy one of our most well-priced units.
Sure.
So we're going to take into account all sources of income, but we do need to make that clear if that was,
That was,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
because I
Perfect.
think you're gonna have questions
Yeah.
between families that have never owned a house versus person that's just saying.
that is income.
Yeah, it is income.
Something countywide that is being worked on right now with the Summit Combined Housing Authority.
Okay.
They are the ones that do the income calculation or income qualification for ideally all of the deed restricted properties in Breckenridge as well as the rest of the county. And they are really trying to get a standardized calculation of what income should be included. And they do look at tax returns and that sort of thing to make sure that we are getting a picture of the entire income
Income of that person.
that somebody is, I mean, at least filing with the IRS. So
I mean, I think this, unfortunately, like, I think is not truly affordable for a lot of people that are going to be in this category, right? Especially when you're taking into account childcare, just groceries and heating and billing, like all the other things that when 30% of your monthly income should technically only go towards your, your housing. And yeah, I'm not sure where I fall in that. I'm not sure we have a lot of people that would fulfill that. And that was partly why my opening question was what percentage of our population would actually qualify for this lower income?
And
housing.
On that, I know people that they've been winning the lottery and okay, yay, we're gonna get to this house. And it's either I seen both of the situations that they say, oh no, you make way too much money when it's something reasonable that they can pay for rent or for mortgage. And I see the other part when the family win the lottery and they're like, oh, now we need to get another 2 extra jobs to be able to afford the mortgage. So they're like mortgage broke, right? They will have money, they gonna have their own house, but they won't have barely any money to do anything. Mainly you like live or survive here, right? So I'm not sure what your, you know, how you selected or how you decide how much they can or they they may weigh too much or they can afford that when in reality doesn't sound, not because I know, but what I hear and what I seen, and it's people that I know, they're close friends of mine, and that has happened to both of them. So I don't know if there is something that is really realistic or not, just so you guys can check on that.
Okay. No, thanks.
Okay.
Have comments?
Quería preguntar porque dice aquí tarifa para entrar a la lotería. ¿Van a evaluar los procesos de lotería, ventas posiblemente? Modificaremos algunos elementos que podrían incluir una tarifa para participar en la lotería y requisitos de depósito de garantía. Quería preguntar aquí, ¿es que eso ha sido porque por falta de educación en la información? Por ejemplo, ¿qué es el AMI, que es el GAP, todo eso? Entonces, falta de educación a la comunidad
And
y eso se puede evitar.
what I'm reading in here, just reading all the requisites that you need to just to enter the lottery. There's a lot of requisites and that we don't know, like AMI, we don't know what that means and a lot of other things. And I think it's just, we just need more education for the population so they can probably access that.
Yes, agreed.
And then, Abigail, what do you think? And I don't know if I got it from you either, Ujala, about staff's approach for the income caps, about having just an income cap for the lower priced units, but not for the
I mean,
higher priced units.
Yeah, I think the income cap makes sense, but I don't necessarily think that the income cap that's here for that price is a livable, is attainable.
It's the number that bothers you.
Yeah.
I feel like that was our stance as a commission initially. Not trying to speak for all of my fellow commissioners, but I do feel like we were all on the same page that it's the cost of purchase is not
Yeah, I mean, if you have, say,
very attainable.
like a 3-bedroom condo, a 3-bedroom townhome, right? And you're selling it for $450, that's easily $2,000-$2,500 per month just towards your mortgage. That's not a lot. I mean, if you think about it, for somebody that's making $96,000 a year is not, that's more than 30% of their income that's gonna go towards that housing, just for the housing.
And that goes with what I was saying.
Yeah. That's my rudimentary math in my head, sorry.
Reminder that don't forget to use your mics, guy, or people,
You hear me there? I
commissioners.
was chewing before, I pushed it away.
Lo mismo también, es muy caro. Sí.
Same here, it's too expensive.
Gone to deed restriction lights.
So the concept around deed restriction lights is, most of the time when the town has developed neighborhoods, we have put a full deed restriction on all of the homes. And a full deed restriction means, you have to meet the employment requirements and all that sort of stuff. But there's also sort of an appreciation cap to make sure that that unit stays affordable over time. It wasn't just intended to be affordable for the first home buyer. It has to be affordable when they sell it to subsequent home buyers and stay affordable over time. So we put this what's called an appreciation cap. You can't sell it for more than X when you sell it. Now, I mean, that is intended to keep the units affordable over time, but what we're doing that could be different in this particular project in order to try to cover the cost and again, hit those lower price points, is to find ways to generate more sales revenue. And we think we can generate more sales revenue by providing a few of the single family homes with just a deed restriction light. Now, that still means you need to comply with the workforce requirement, but it also means when you go to sell, you can sell it for whatever the market will bear. Now, these are going to be quite expensive upfront. We're thinking about $1.3 million, which is not that discounted to market. I mean, it's discounted to market. So, I mean, we're not as concerned as sometimes when we have no appreciation cap and it's a really low priced unit. It's so discounted to market that when they go to sell it, they could double their money. But with these, if we launch them at 1.3, if they hold on to them for a few years and go to sell them at whatever the market would bear for those units, they could sell them for. So if there is a market for somebody that is a local employee that can pay 1.5 or whatever the cost might be based on the market or the demand, that would be okay. This is not so different from what has happened in almost all of our neighborhoods that have been developed by the private sector. When the private sector develops a neighborhood like Wellington neighborhood or Vista Point, there are some market rate units in those neighborhoods that enabled that developer to hit the lower price point. So we've allowed the private sector to utilize market rate units. When we don't want to use market rate units, we just want to use deed restricted light units that you still have to be workforce, but we're not capping that resale price so tightly. I think let me check my memo. It's in my memo. I think it's 4. It's not very many.
4 out of the first 81 or 4 for the whole project?
Do you remember when you were working with?
Sorry.
Yeah, but there's some that are light deed restricted and some that are not.
First phase.
Restricted.
First phase.
He's talking about the light deed
Light
so that they can sell it
deed
for whatever they
itself.
want later.
There's none in the first phase.
Fancy.
I think, no, I think it's 4 in the 81.
Sorry, so they would all be 1.3, but only 4 of them would get the ability to
No,
use
no.
light?
There would only be 4 of that high price point,
And
1.3.
let me pull this back just to not get too into the weeds with this, because we
Sure.
know this is incredibly complex and we so appreciate all your input. So what we're trying to get specifically with this deed restricted light question
Yeah.
is basically these units will be much more expensive and they can appreciate as market forces allow. So what the town is considering is allowing just a few of these units because that will allow us to take the money made off those units and further subsidize the lower price
So
units.
I had a
Okay.
question about that.
Go ahead.
So let's say you had that money to buy that light deed restricted house, which is the same price a non-deed restricted house.
What's market?
Why will you buy the light deed restricted? You can buy a non-deed restricted when everybody wants to get out of deed restricted.
Oh, I don't think everybody wants to get out of deed
I
restriction.
think the people who wants to, well, at least people that I know, I don't know, probably you know different people.
Yeah,
The people that I know that if they live in deed restricted, most of the people wants to get out deed restricted so they can actually make money on their houses or whatever they have
Yeah.
or own more properties.
I think in this particular community, the price of market rate units is unattainable by 90% of our workforce. There are not very many people that earn their living working in our community that can afford what the market is providing. Because the market rate home prices are driven by people that are retiring or they're remote workers but in most cases, we don't have people that are earning their living here being able to find a market rate unit because the gap is, I mean, they're $3 million or something that would be equivalent to one of these units is going to be, yeah.
But
unattainable.
I've been looking at houses and I see 4 3 bedrooms for that price. So that's what I know.
But-
That's what I'm saying.
Right, but they're not brand new construction and net zero.
Yes, but you will make more money. So that's what I'm
Yeah.
asking. If you
Absolutely.
you're gonna invest that money because it's an investment, right? Why would you invest in a light restricted instead of buying your own house? It doesn't, you know what I'm saying?
You know, we talked about that a lot.
Mhm.
Will there be market
Buyers.
buyers for that $1.3 million deed restriction light? A lot of people actually prefer to live in local neighborhoods. We see people all the time that want to live in a local's neighborhood, but they they can't get into the local's neighborhood. And they would prefer to live there as opposed to living in the Highlands or somewhere outside. Our local neighborhoods are really in demand by all segments of our community. And the market rate units in Wellington, I mean, those are super popular. So this isn't a market rate unit, but it is available to, higher income households for sure, and they'll be able to earn some appreciation on it. But we think the deed restriction light even will cap the price. So it won't go up to what real market rate units are doing, which is unattainable.
Just to clarify, you're saying there would still be a cap on this light restriction?
Whatever the market would bear.
So how do you prevent it from going up 300% like we've seen houses around us, right? Like in the last 3 years, you can literally look at a purchase history. Something's been sold for 900, less than 3 years later, it's being sold for 2.7. How do you prevent that and then like maintaining a locals neighborhood that way?
I think because we still require the workforce owner occupancy.
So then you'd have
criteria.
unoccupied housing if somebody's gonna move, right, in a way. If nobody can afford that and that person has to, for some reason, leave the community, you end up with 4 houses
That nobody.
that
else is
nobody
going
can
to.
afford. How do you, like, what's the purpose of that? If you don't mind me asking.
The money to subsidize the other units.
But then you're also just limiting it to that first time buyer, right?
Well,
Because there's a potential of somebody,
They won't be able to. Sorry. Hi.
Town manager, she just couldn't help herself. I don't blame you.
coffee today.
No worries. So they wouldn't be able to sell the house.
Right.
Right, so they either stay in it.
Yes,
Or
but
they
if they
lower
for
their
any
price.
reason, or they lower the price, but again, but the thing is, the initial use of that house is to subsidize these other houses, right? But at the
And
end
to
of the
provide
day,
housing for that segment. of
right,
our
but at the end of the day, if there's no cap in what they can sell that house for, they're making that money back. And these houses are also gonna have ADUs, right? So not only are they getting subsidized for their mortgage, but then they're also making additional money when they go to sell that house because they have a built-in income with that ADU.
Mhm.
Yeah, but they're not getting subsidized though.
Subsidized, but they are still like getting a house that they have an ADU, they have a house that they can sell at any value that they want to and no cap there. So in a way, why, like, if you could afford it, why wouldn't you buy that 1.3? Because in 5 years, if things continue the way they are, why wouldn't it? Like, I'm playing devil's advocate
Mhm.
here, trying to figure out what.
I think you're right.
Yes.
And that is I think to Issa's point,
Yeah,
that is what will drive people to actually purchase these units,
yeah,
right? Even though they have a deed restriction on them and it's not quite the same as a market rate,
sure.
there is still the potential to make more money on it
On
than
a
you would
house.
hard deed restriction.
Yeah,
So you will get, we think we'll get people to purchase them, and how much they appreciate will depend on what someone's
Right,
willing to
that's
pay, who
the thing.
actually works in this, right? So you can't.
community. But you're also forcing that majority, 90% of the people that can afford, that work in this community already can't afford that house, right? So you're limiting it to a very specific subset of people. It is,
It is.
okay.
And there are definitely folks in our community that can.
Yeah,
Um,
But it is, sort of to Lori's point, it's utilizing those folks to help
Subsidize the others. Okay. And then, sorry, just my follow-up question to that is, is there going to be a certain amount that even the I guess all of them would have to put back in towards the house? I think this is a conversation we had last time,
Yeah.
was to ensure that these communities or these units in 20 years are still viable units, like that it's not just dilapidated, right? Like you need to have that opportunity to be able to put that money back into your house and get past that that cap. Is there going to be a value there that's going to be included as well, just to ensure?
I mean, we do have a maintenance policy that people could recoup some of their costs to maintain their property. We haven't had that in the past, so it's new. And, we learned from early projects that people might defer their maintenance, indeed restricted, because it doesn't matter if they do it, they're going to get their maximum resale price anyway.
Yeah.
And so we had to find a way to allow them to recoup some of their expense on maintenance without driving the prices, because price creep is the other thing we're worried about, is them becoming too expensive. So you kind of have to find the balance where an owner can recoup some, but it's not so significant that we're driving price creep. So I think the maintenance policy will still apply to all these units. And I think maintenance will be even more critical to the deed restriction lights, because they're not going to get a high price if they haven't maintained it. Because that's when it will really just be the pure market driving what that house is worth.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, that's good.
Are we going down the line or are we just?
Down
firing
that
it?
line.
We just jump for the popcorn in? Okay, so I like the light deed restriction. I think it gives different options. But I have a couple questions though. So with the remote work, is it remote work for a business that's serving Summit County, or like they just work here and they spend their money here, but the business can be like in Virginia?
Business located in and serving the community, you need to be here to do your job. Providing housing for somebody that has a job that is completely, their employers in New York, but they're here, that is not
No,
cool.
okay. Just want to make sure,
Yeah,
want to clarify.
Yeah, remote is a new concept. Who knew that it would come to be?
And so I like the light deed restriction, like I said, but take a look at the 3 Wellington houses that are sitting there right now, right? You
yeah,
got one at
yeah.
a light deed restricted that's 1.4.
Yep.
No one's bid on that. Everyone thought that was going to go quickly. The one right next to me is not, I think it's market, but they wanted 1.7. They're not going to get it. And then the new one for 2.1, right? Like those are, so even that low one at 1.4, no one's biting on it. Now it's an older house, right? I mean, it's like 10, 13 years older, but what's the difference between that and then the 1.3? I mean, I know new construction, but really what's the difference in thought process of someone buying that one versus?
Yeah, we're really watching those Wellington units to see where they end up landing, and that helps us figure out, is it 1.3, is it 1.2? What's the right price to roll these out at? The market will tell us what the demand is for those units in Wellington. And some of the units that are for sale in Wellington right now, I think are pure market rate units where don't require.
The 1.4 is a light.
Yeah, deed
I've looked
restriction.
at all of them.
Yeah.
Just because I think it's fun.
Yeah.
But I do think there are people in our community that can afford those, but it's just realistically how many compared to the 81 units do we really need? I get the subsidy, like you need those, but how many do we need? Like what's the best number on all of that?
Yeah.
The sweet spot.
Yeah, sweet spot. Well, the one good thing is, the neighborhood's going to be developed over in 4 phases. The first phase, the first 81 units are going to be developed in phases. So we will know after we start to launch these price points, if the demand is there, or if we need to adjust our demand, or, swap out a 4-bedroom single for a 3-bedroom single, because that's where the market really is. I think we'll be able to make adjustments as we launch the project and see where the demand's strongest.
For the aspect of time, was there anything that anyone had to add about the deed restricted lights? Is everyone okay with the concept?
Yeah, like I said, I'd just like to say this on record though. Like it does seem like the deed restriction light is more or less creating a 2-tiered system that might reinforce inequality. Some of the things that I'm a little bit worried about is just issues with like what happens. Basically, it's an uneven wealth building opportunity, I think, embedded within this two-tiered system where buyers of uncapped units could realize a massive financial gain when they sell, unlike those in those capped appreciation units. And so I'm just worried about us exacerbating inequalities and inequities between those who have access to wealth building properties and those who don't. And so
Yeah.
that's just a concern of mine.
Quick question, just, some of the neighborhoods like Wellington where we already have market rate units in with deed restricted units, those to us seem like very healthy neighborhoods because they are mixed income, variety of household types. And it's almost a similar situation to the Wellington market rate units. And for sure, the market rate homeowners have more wealth to begin with and, have more opportunity to access the market where the deed restricted owners are capped. But it still does make for a really healthy neighborhood to have that kind of mixed income. And it super helps us in terms of trying to finance this project. I mean, that's our objectives.
I think another concern before we leave, I'm sorry, y'all, to hold y'all. Just want to make sure that we're not, as a town, putting ourselves in a position to prioritize financial feasibility of this neighborhood over inclusivity, inclusive access. I mean, you kind of
I get
mentioned
it.
it, but I'm sure you guys are doing some sort of like analysis or whatnot, demographic trends and ownership, resale over time, hopefully with an eye towards any kind of equity outcomes, ways to course correct as needed.
Yeah, good help.
Cool. So we do have 3 more topics left. Accessory dwelling units, priorities, and fee. I know for those 3 with time, if we'd like to just
Or you bundle
email.
them and just say
Yeah.
like your 3, 1, 2, 3, and
Yeah.
then go on.
Yep, I was gonna say that or email Lori. Okay. Michelle, would you like to go first, or I can go first, or?
Do you have anything to say on just to give us a little context real quick?
I mean, we really like the concept of ADUs. We think ADUs provide diversity in the neighborhood and some potential very affordable rentals. So our proposal is, there's only some, go ahead.
Lemon, so accessory dwelling units is the ones
Sorry.
we're talking about renting? Yeah.
It's like a
Little apartment is this.
ADU is an accessory dwelling unit,
above your garage.
a rental property.
But we were talking about it last time, no? The
Yeah.
rental thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So we like the concept of creating these separate little rental units that are on the homes. They provide diversity to the neighborhood for sure by including some rentals as well as the for sale. But we can only fit the ADUs on the single family units, which are targeting the higher AMI. So it's another thing that, hey, by providing an ADU on a higher priced unit, you're providing greater opportunity and wealth building for the owner of that particular unit. But we do feel that these would also be providing some rental opportunities for the other segment of our community that needs rentals and needs rentals at lower price points. So we're proposing to sort of build the structure of the ADU, just the shell. And then if the owner wants to have an ADU, they have to pay to build the ADU out. And then the question that we're really interested in understanding is if the owner builds the interior of that ADU out and they're going to benefit from the rental revenue, and should they be required to rent it, or can they use it for their family or their guests? I think our preference is they be required to use that as a rental because that's our goal for including them in the beginning.
I think it should be their decision because it's their house, right? So it's like if, for example, right, like you have it and you had little kids and then you're
That's an
renting
issue.
it to a single person that smoke marijuana or, smoke outside or had a lot of parties or things like that.
Okay.
Or,
Okay.
you as a
You'd be
parent,
okay
you're
with it.
crazy like that, like you know, you hear about kids being raped and killed or kidnapped, things like that. So I feel like as a parent, as a family, you need to think about your kids and how you expose them to those things. So as a mother, I would like to have the own decision if I want to rent or not something in my property. And especially here, you get people that can be, you know, rental is hard too. People who rent units, you rent it to this person, you investigate, you think is fine, and they destroy your house. So I feel like that should be an individual decision.
Thanks.
That's a good, and thing, just to clarify, town would never require who specifically, we would just require that it is.
Yeah, but if you don't want any, like, if I had little kids, since I don't know if I want somebody there or, you know, yeah, I don't know. That's my opinion.
I think like if you were to build it out and wanted to add that cost onto the sale price to recoup any of the cost of building it out, then it might be required to at least rent it out for a period of time. But if you were okay with paying for the cost of building it out and you wanted to just have family members live there and you were okay with like not saying like, I spent $20,000 building out this ADU, I want to add it on to the price as far as like a maintenance cost, then I understand you're just like, hey, like it's gonna sell for whatever the 3% accumulation is over the years. I'm not gonna be able to add this cost onto it at the end. Like as far as like if you were to like do the roof on your house or like your kitchen and like those maintenance costs, I understand you're like, hey, like we're gonna add this on, like for the capital gains, like in Wellington. But if you built out your ADU and you wanted to recoup some of those costs, I think you should have to rent it out for a little bit to help another person in the community, just to like kind of get their feet up just a little bit, especially if there's an ability to cap what that rental price is to make it affordable. So I think if
People want, yeah, but I think it should be like the family who own that house, decision to do it.
I think that's what I mean. Like if it's your choice and you want to spend the money in building it out and don't want to and understand that you're not going to be able to add the cost of building it out on to be able to rent it or just have it for your family, then that's fine. But if you want to add the cost of building it out to the final sale price, especially if it is something that doesn't have the light deed restriction on it, then you should have to rent it out for a portion of time to help another community member. And I do understand the vetting process and finding the right person can always be difficult in a rental because, you know, you don't want people that you wouldn't prefer around your family. So I think that could be even something into your own personal lease with that person to unto which they can or cannot do on your property. Because at the end of the day, it's still the homeowner's property, which the ADU is being offered.
Let's keep going with ADU and then we'll bundle a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And I know we skipped you, so we'll go like this. Yes.
All right, I just want to be consistent with what I brought up the last time that you guys came to us and explained this project. For the accessory dwelling units being available for rental, I just would like us to consider this being a part of a larger strategy in terms of helping those renters to build equity, and wondering if we could maybe work with our community partners in the realm of wraparound services to help support those renters. Because yeah, those could be some of our most vulnerable populations of individuals looking for housing.
Yeah, would there be like any way for like consistent payments to like help their credit so that they look good when they're like looking to purchase later on? Or if they're trying to potentially move from an ADU into an upcoming lottery unit, would there be a possibility to get another entry for like trying to make that step up in our community from renting from a deed restricted unit, a deed restricted ADU into purchasing a deed restricted unit? That opportunity could be really cool because I mean, extra entries in all these lotteries they are everything. And the ones you get from working in the community, the ones you get for the time that you've spent living in the community. And I think if we could add the potential for the ones that you've spent renting from someone who owns in the community, could also be beneficial. And then
Sorry, I'm a numbers nerd over here. So, just looking at the two-car garages are all the single family units, right? And then you have 4 light deed restricted, and then how many of the 4-bedroom would be
In the first phase,
your total?
I don't think I included the number of units in this particular chart.
And is there a difference in the amount that would be, so essentially the cost of building an ADU and a 2-bedroom garage for both of those houses would be the same?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
But-
we're providing them ADU ready.
ADU
kinda.
ready.
Yeah, yeah.
But then the person that is buying that light deed restricted can use that square footage to the addition of their house and use it as, say, they added 500 square feet, and then it just increases the value of their house because they've increased that overall square footage versus the same person that has another one, but they have put in the same amount of money, but then can't, right? Because they also own a 4-bedroom, but they're on a heavier deed restriction.
Right, the deed restriction light is whatever the market will bear. So if they build an ADU
Yeah.
and add 400 square feet or whatever it is, it's what the market would bear for that.
So
But
is-
the others are capped.
Is there thought to help support people that already probably need a little bit more subsidy to help build that ADU and then ask it to be rented?
Yeah, I mean,
Versus
that's
the
what
ones that
comes-
are
yeah,
going to recoup money from it regardless?
Right.
11 4-bedroom single-family homes. It was 11 4-bedroom single-family homes as listed in here.
Okay. Oh, yeah, it is.
A little bit of equity there, right? Like
So how to evaluate some sort of assistance to
for that ADU, right? 'Cause
the
it's-
other owners to add the ADU.
Right. Because if ultimately your goal is to have more units available for everybody to, it's like, providing that subsidy for the family that's not going to be able to sell it at market value would probably provide them more assistance at the end of the day than somebody that can already afford to have a 1.3 million house, probably put in whatever it is to build that ADU and then use that for themselves. So it's providing that.
Yeah, I think we need to evaluate our ADU policy in general in terms of how to incentivize ADUs within deed restricted neighborhoods as well as in market rate neighborhoods. But no, it's a good comment.
I don't really have too much on ADUs. I love the comment of incentivizing and helping those renters be able to then somehow get some credit to then buy their own house. I think that's really huge because a lot of them probably just Venmo or write a check, so there's no way for them to actually get that credit. And really just thinking about like if you add the ADU afterwards, right? So are these single family homes coming with 2-car garages, or is it like the option of the other neighborhoods to add one? And so if they decide to add one later, they don't really get as much help to add those. Darcy, we had this conversation for quite a bit, is you don't get as much help when you want to add one later on for whatever reason. And so how can they do that later on if they're doing well and get a better job or whatever it is, and they want to add 2-car garage with an ADU on later, but they're not going to be able to recoup any of that later on. So how does that help them then help anybody else?
Yeah, there are the only homes in the neighborhood that can accommodate an ADU are the ones that are coming with a garage.
So those
yeah.
come with a garage.
They
They're
come
not-
with a
yeah.
garage and they actually come with a finished sort of storage area above. So we call them ADU ready, and they're wired and plumbed so that we are in a way facilitating the conversion to the ADU. The
Gotcha.
interior finish is
Totally
all they
different.
would have to do.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
okay.
Finished at it. If everyone said, do we still have 2 questions? We'll go on to public comment. If you would like to hang around, because I think.
Address
Can I, yeah.
the lottery.
Just do
Oh,
2 more. Do you have time
yeah.
to do 2 more questions?
Yeah.
So I'll jump into it. This is not the deed restriction. This is more the sale process. Are there questions there about the?
We can get to these after everybody goes through.
On the sale process and the lotteries, and you had mentioned priorities in the lottery. The priorities become super complicated, and we are concerned that by providing an extra opportunity for things like I've been in the community 10 years, I get an extra ticket. I mean, there is a potential that we are unintentionally providing more opportunity that could be challenged based on some protected class. Maybe the people that have been in our community for 10 years have a different makeup than the people that just arrived, and who knows, but it's a kind of a risky issue, and I'm very concerned about sort of providing priorities based on things that could unintentionally benefit or disadvantagize somebody of a protected class segment of our community. So we're actually recommending moving away from the priority for time you've been in the community. New people that are working in the community have the same challenges finding housing, and we need to get those people into our deed restricted units as well as the people that have been here for a while. But there is a community benefit if the people that live in the runway work in the upper below. Because our goal is not to have people commuting from other parts of the basin to jobs in the upper blue. So there is a definite benefit in terms of reducing vehicle miles traveled, people having to drive, congestion of cars. And so we all believe that if we could have a neighborhood that consisted primarily of people that work in the upper blue, that would be a better thing. And so we're recommending the only priority be sort of my job is in the upper blue. And would like your sort of feedback on that as we start to think about the lottery.
No, I'll go. I'm kind of indifferent on that. I agree, but disagree. Is it like an extra ticket to like, what does it mean that they are prioritized?
It's usually an extra ticket. That's what we've done in the past on other lotteries, but there's been a whole variety of things we would give you extra tickets for. I think we're trying to simplify the process for this. There's really only one way to get an extra ticket, and it's you or your household or somebody in your household works in the upper below, because that really does support one of our big goals to reduce all the commuting across the county. So it's the only priority that we're recommending.
I appreciate taking away if you lived here for 10 years, you get an extra ticket. And I'm indifferent on either way. I don't think it really is positive or negative. But I just want to say as a blended family of 6, I really appreciate you thinking of the different side of the 4 bedrooms, because there's nowhere else in Breckenridge that can fit a family that's that big. And so I know we have a wide variety of people in Summit County, but that's on my end, a very limited amount of houses that are accessible.
It was
I
good to
appreciate the
hear
4
that,
bedroom.
because we were talking about the 4 bedrooms today, and it's like there are no 4 bedrooms
There
in
aren't.
any of our neighborhoods. It's a super important sort of demographic and housing type.
Needs lower,
Yeah.
but there's still
Yeah.
a need. So
Yeah.
I do appreciate that.
So the ticket is that you guys do right now is the ticket that you guys do right now is for the people who had lived in the community in general,
Summit County.
all Summit County?
Uh-huh. And they got an extra ticket in some of our previous lotteries.
There were like some if you worked like in Breck, like I know.
Yeah, I had mixed feelings about that, because probably it's a lot of people who, like me, right? I live here in Breck, but I work in Dillon, right? Or, and I love Breck and I want to live here, but I need to go to work to Dillon. That's my only option, right? But I know it's also a lot of people who lives over there and work here, right? And I feel it's important the people who has worked or live here in the community for 10 years, at least is what it says there, right? It's also important because we also seen I just had somebody who moved in next to me. They've been here forever, and it's the first time they're able to buy a house. And they've been here probably longer than me. And I've been here 14 years. And so I found fair people to be able to buy had a higher chance to get a house than people who has been here 2 years. That's my opinion.
You
And I
like the
think
tax.
I found it fair. I don't know, is that necessarily they need to work on, like you said, the upper blue, like, because I was asking her what's exactly the upper blue, so she told me. And yeah, so I think I think it's okay to me, and I'm okay with you guys giving extra ticket to people who has lived here for 10 years.
That's it me. Okay. I understand it. I like it. I've seen like my friends and like other people who've lived here really long times like feel like just disheartened like when there is an opportunity for affordable housing and they apply for it, whether it's something to rent or something to own, and they have a friend who's only been up here a few years who gets that opportunity. And not to say that like they deserve it because they spent time here and they've spent a portion of their life here, but it's sad when those people leave our community because they aren't able to accomplish that goal here. And it's not that they don't want to accomplish that goal here. It's just how long are you going to continue to try while looking at the decreased area for the town to build affordable housing and then just the increase of what the market rate is continuing to grow to, that when you look at other areas where their professions exist, and that market just being more affordable at the end of the day. So it's tough to see friends lose the hope of living here after having spent so much of their time here. So I think that that opportunity is nice, but I understand if you just want to give everyone the same shake at the opportunity to buy a house, because it is a tough decision on what is fair for this opportunity, and it is our last big build of a community here in Breck. So I guess I understand both sides of it.
To that point too, I'm I'm wondering if we can add perhaps maybe a little context to the application system as a part of the lottery process. It seems like we've created like a false binary between income testing allows us to have equity goals, but then like to your point, right, houses sit vacant over time, and then we'll have to do some with no income testing. And so I'm almost like, can we treat the application like a point system on a job application? And maybe there's like a cofactor on an objective scale that would allow us to both serve those individuals in our community who we hope to serve, while also trying to get people into homes. To Jay's point, right? Like I think we all can share a story of those individuals who, for whatever reason, their situation has changed. They've had to find remote work in the county. Someone else has gone back to school. So you know what I mean? Another partner in the household has to find another job. And then those kind of things would, inadvertently disqualify those individuals from getting into this sort of housing, either because they don't abide by the income cap or the local residency piece. And so again, I'd just like to see if we can maybe bake into that application process a little bit more context to serve the people we want to serve.
If they live or
You get a point.
you get a point. And then if you're here for 10 years, you get a
Get a
point.
point.
And then whoever has the most points, like that's how the lot.
Some sort, yeah,
Like ticket goes.
similar
Yeah,
to that. Yeah, similar to that, but just has a little bit more context that
Yeah,
can
not just.
take into place those situations that we all know. Like to Jay's point that he just described, we all have that story.
I would almost equate it to what we do when we provide our, funding. Similarly to, are you based in the Blue Basin, or are you just Upper Blue Basin, or are you in Summit County? Sort of that kind of accountability and giving you a little bit of more priority based
Right.
on that. And like, what do you bring back to the community? Those kind of things, right? Like what you, so.
We sit on the same cell.
We do.
So you can kind of see
Thinking the same.
going with
Yeah.
like an application
Right.
and a point system.
Really. I actually have sorry, were you done?
No, yeah, that was
Right.
it. Just
2 questions. Is this being subsidized by just the Breckenridge, or is this by Summit County total?
Breckenridge.
Town of Breck.
Town of Breck. So that would then lead me to say residents or people that live within the community that continue to give back to this community should get a tick, an additional ticket. Can't remember my second question.
Years.
Oh, the 10 years. Yeah, I mean, I think if you've lived here for 10 years, I think this is
Extra point.
yeah, this is not an easy community to sort of find your way or path into. I almost, when I first moved here, I equated to high school. It's like everybody knows everybody. And then you're like, hey, how are you? And then it's like you sit next to somebody and they're like, I don't know you from Kingdom Come. So why should I, it's like, but as you have children and you get to know the community, you fall in love with it. And I think for someone to spend 10 years here is a large component of their time, of their life. And I think they should get some. And we don't want to lose those people because they clearly want to be here and are happy here. So
Say I have lived here for 14 years. I'm from Mexico, but I feel this is my home now. So
Oh.
That's good. That's good.
Pues sí, iba a decir que también se le dé un ticket más a las personas que han vivido más de 10 años y pues en el área lo que es de Breckenridge.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing, just to get an extra ticket to the people that have been here for more than 10 years and that they've been living here in Breckenridge for more than 10 years.
I think I'm hearing that loud and clear from the group.
Yeah, I think we just.
And I even understood it in Spanish too. I'm like, the last one I think is really simple. We do a lottery process, and unfortunately, because of the lender requirements, sometimes the lottery is like a year before the house is done. And so many things change in a person's life in a period of a year. That we do end up with a lot of people opting out at the last minute, which creates a real challenge for the builder because they've built the unit, they're carrying the mortgage, and the person they thought they were going to sell it to generate some revenue to pay their financing down can back out at the last minute. So we are going to make some changes to the fee and the earnest money, and most likely requires some sort of small fee to enter the lottery because it costs money to run those lotteries. Right now, there's no charge, and people enter into every single lottery regardless of whether they're really serious about that particular project. And so we think a little fee will make sure the people that are in the lottery actually do know what the lottery is for.
how much?
It'll be minimal $50 or something,
yeah.
maybe. Yeah,
No,
nothing.
I think that's good.
Just to get some
To
skin
get
in
on
the
the childcare wait list.
And then we will have their earnest money. Right now, we just required too small of an earnest payment. I mean, when you get to be 2 months out from your unit being done, you need to have a little more skin in the game in terms of earnest money. And that might be like $5,000 or something, but you're 2 months out and you're buying a house. We need to know that you are there, because otherwise we need to be going back to that lottery list and getting the next person. And frequently the unit doesn't get occupied when it's done and can sit vacant for a while. So this is more of a sort of let you know that we do want to do a small fee and we want to have an escalating earnest money. So hopefully that's makes sense and is okay.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's fair.
I think with like wanting to live here and wanting to live in that style of community, paying a little bit for that opportunity, I think especially if there are any benefits for having lived here for a significant amount of time and knowing that like you are going to get so many entries to do it, that you'll feel better about your opportunity and that spending that money will feel worth it. And I think that will help.
Should we just do head nods for this one, or
Yeah.
anyone disagrees with Jay?
Well, they were just letting us know, so I don't
Yeah.
think they need our opinion anyway, so
Yeah,
it's like, okay, good to know.
super helpful for us to get your feedback. We're just starting this process, putting it on paper and seeing what it looks like and seeing what people think about it. So
Thanks for taking time out of y'all's evening to engage us.
Always so much.
Questions that we were going to try and get to? well.
So we will call this the
Just one
public
more.
comment section of our meeting.
So how many units are available by AMI? How many by 85, 90, and 120?
Okay, so it was kind of the designation of how many townhomes, how many duplexes, how many, I think that's what this question is kind of directed at.
and I didn't add that to my
That
chart. Well,
No.
actually it's in there. I mean, our townhomes
Yeah.
are the 85.
First phase includes
Have
81.
we have 18 two-bedroom townhomes,
Wow.
which are the 85% AMI. We have 12 three-bedroom townhomes, which are the 90% AMI. We have 20 three-bed duplexes, which are 120% AMI. We have 4 of the small single families that are 130% AMI. We have 16 of the 3-bedroom, which are 150% MI, and we have 11 of the 4-bedroom homes, which are 145% AMI.
And then that sounded earlier like it could be fluid based on what's selling to build more of a certain AMI cap.
Well, we can definitely plug and play a little bit and flex if there's demand for, say, the 3-bedroom and no demand for the 4-bedroom. Within sort of the housing types, we can definitely flex. If there's no demand for the duplexes, we may be able to put in a single family. That could impact our overall subsidy, though. We need to look as if we can swap complete unit types out, but we can flex within the bedroom size units. We could do more 3-bedroom townhomes and fewer 2-bedrooms if that's where the market is. So those kinds of things we could do some flexing on.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
nice to know that it
Yeah.
can be a little bit fluid. based
Whatever
on
the
our
market is
community
gonna
needs.
drive.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you both so much for
Thank you.
coming and allowing us to ask you a bunch of questions once again. Hopefully this is not the last conversation that we get to have, and we look forward to.
If you wanna come back ever after, we have put you through
think
like
she
last
wants to
time,
be-
this time. and
Wait.
She came more prepared this time. Last time she's like, what's going on?
No, I do hope we engage more often, for sure.
Yeah.
It
I
helps
look
us.
forward to celebrating the success of this project and knowing that we as a commission got to be involved as much as we have been over these last 2 sessions, and for the sessions in the future to really support the growth and the affordability of new units in our community. I'm really excited by all of it.
At the groundbreak, and there would be actually a groundbreak event on August 12th, if anybody wants to join us in the afternoon, right before the county council work session. We're gonna have the town council.
Scissors?
Yeah, no, shovels. We're
Groundbreak for
Yeah,
infrastructure. so
yeah,
not the
we don't have the
like
scissors yet.
structure.
Yeah,
for-
no, but
The
This
first
guy
lottery
makes sure-
already happened? The first lottery?
oh
already-
no, the lottery won't happen until maybe early next year. The first unit isn't going to, we're not gonna start construction on the first unit until next summer. And so, the lender may require contracts. And so we'd have to have the
Oh, okay.
the lottery in advance of that. So maybe it's early 26.
Yeah, we-
Hasn't been given full approval yet, has it? Is it self?
Only have approval to go
Exactly
vertical.
why the commissioner's input is so valuable, because council hasn't made these decisions. So we wanted to hear from you on those points
And when
there.
Is that on the docket to?
Listen in.
Well, thank you, Lori. You're the best again. You
Thank-
too, Darcy.
No, thank you all. Do appreciate this.
Thank you so much, Lori, and thank you so much, Darcy. And for our rest of our commissioners, The updates for every meeting is in the packet. We're just gonna uh, note that. And for, I had a portion of things to say.
Take care, ladies.
I have an update. Taj is going to be taking a break from our commission. So we'd be looking for another commission member to fill in her place.
What?
Taj is taking a break.
A break.
Yeah, she's got some things going on and she's just gonna step away from the commission for a little bit and yeah. I know, I'll miss her. She's been, I mean,
Since the
her,
beginning,
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
huge
my
thank you to
girl.
Taj. She's done so much for this commission, this town community. So we're so grateful for the time she put into this. And I think next steps will be maybe Jay, Floor, and I on the selection committee, but first town will outreach to put out an application for new commissioners. And I know Flora will probably share it with all of us to amplify in our networks, and we'll work on filling that seat.
And once we do that, we will vote on chair and vice chair again, because I don't think we've done that again this year.
We'll look at our bylaws. I don't know when that comes up.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Perfect. So we thank Taj and we love Taj, and we will have her voice back here as soon as she's ready. So upcoming community events, we have our farmers market every Thursday at 4 to 7 in the exchange lot. I think our mayor Kelly and some of our council members and we are all very welcomed to be there. Believe there can be a table for us if we'd like to attend to outreach to the community and let them know what we're doing and.
More.
Oh,
They-
nope, too far.
They took it back because it's so popular, which is great, but we don't have a table anymore.
I think on our name tags,
Yeah.
and you have a presence of any commissioners.
Some jackets and name tags, and it is a great place to go show our faces in the community and tell them what we're doing.
If I can just date that a little bit. Sorry. So we did originally have a table set up for mayor and council members and anyone else who wanted to join to do that, but felt like certainly the real estate was important for more vendors to be there for food. And then also, I think the decision was made from the council side of things that it was much easier to kind of walk around and mingle versus standing there and saying, hi, you want to come talk to us? I think
Right.
that's been the vein. The discussion we've had about even the coffee talks is like, they'd rather engage people on their own terms versus saying, come talk to us. That feels a little bit more organic and a little more approachable for people. I think that's why that was done. So you're welcome to be there. Wear your name tags. Well done, Jotuan. And I mean, we're planning to be there in attendance and speak to a lot of folks. And as you've seen, it's a lot of locals. It's not, I mean, there are some people walking by, but people coming with shopping bags is exactly what we're looking for. We want people to buy their groceries there. We have intentionally avoided having trinkets and knickknacks and crafts. It's about food. It's about trying to provide, healthy food to the community. And it seems to be becoming really much very community gathering time and space. So
Awesome.
That's the background.
What is Farmers Market? Across from Fatty's. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Where or when is it?
that parking deck, what is that?
It's tomorrow, no?
Yeah.
Tomorrow afternoon from 4 to 7 across from Fatty's in the arts district.
Exchange lot, correct? They
Yeah,
need the
exchange
title.
lot. Yeah, right on the corner. And then we have Juan Fuentes exhibition workshop Saturday, July 26th from 2 to 3:30 p.m. at the Old Masonic Hall. Upcoming, we also have Breck Bike Week from August 9th to 15th, and another installment of the Learning How to Bike series coming up soon too. Number 3. Then we have BIFA, the Breckenridge International Festival of the Arts, from August 15th to the 24th. And then the Ute tribal member Skylar, I'm not going to attempt that because I don't want to say it wrong. Storytelling, August 22nd from 5 to 7 at the Edwin Carter Museum. And then those are going to be in your packet as well if you are missing any of those updates or for those upcoming events. I just want to say thank you all for being here today. It was an amazing discussion, and that was so much fun to continue the progress of assisting in how these upcoming housing units are going to be built. I'm incredibly thankful to be a part of this commission, to see those moments and to be a part of them as well. And on that, I would like to adjourn today's meeting. Motion to approve. Wait, were there any other comments? Sorry if I. Okay. Cool. A motion to adjourn today's meeting. I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
And a second.
I'll second.
Cool. Well, thank you all so much, and sorry for going like 40 minutes over. But we were
Bravo.
in the groove.